Grand Rapids often is very historically, we're in the north, but very segregated
very
city.
Much
So, we don't have a segregated city leadership anymore. That's great. That's the first step. And then from here, it's like getting all the. But there's, oh man, Joe, I don't even know how to tell you like how complicated I understand these problems are and how you move and help lead the city is nearly, it's not impossible, but it's impossible to please everybody.
Oh, dude, it is virtually impossible to please everyone. And I think there are some in our community who have been given that task, and it's impossible. And I can't help but to think about and mention our police chief.
Yeah.
He is in an impossible position. He happens to be a really good man who's trying his best, but it's, and not just him, it was his predecessor. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much anyone in that position throughout the country, the head of law enforcement, right? Yeah, and because you have all these competing narratives and differing opinions. And, I will tell you this, that I depend heavily on a couple things when it comes to leading. One is I depend on my faith walk, which is something that I can't just kind of put in the drawer and put away and only use it on Sundays. Mm-hmm. It's with me. It's part of my DNA. It's who I am.
Well, it's part of your profession.
Absolutely.
Your calling. So
there's that too.
Just for the audience, I mean, Joe is also an ordained pastor. Mm-hmm. And do you head up a church right now?
I am actually assistant pastor over at Brown Hutcherson Ministries. Actually, my pastor is my colleague, Nathaniel Moody.
Oh, cool.
On the commission.
All right, awesome. I'll let you get it back on your point. Sorry. But you were talking about faith as being part of your, informs your ideas and decision-making around leadership or these problems that are coming up.
The other is I really depend heavily upon history. I tell you something, bro. There's something to be said about, the wisdom that suggests that there's nothing new under the sun. Mm-hmm. So, I really spend a lot of time trying to get a better understanding of how was this handled back in that day. And not to say I'm going to look to copycat it, but it provides, I think, context and insight to be able to make good, solid decisions today that aren't going to be always widely accepted. And you have to, I think, live with that, especially in today's politics, because there's always the threat of, folks saying, I'm coming after you when it's time for re-election, or I want to recall you. And it's just like, you know what? Again, I'm going to, you elected me, and I'm going to hope that you recognize that I'm just not kind of making decisions off the cuff here, that I'm literally trying to make some very thoughtful decisions. I'm trying to be as discerning as possible. I'm trying to tap into history. I'm trying to tap into the wisdom of my elders, as well as the wisdom of the younger generation. It's actually being said now that you're missing something if you don't have a mentor who's if you don't have a mentor who's an elder and a mentor who is a millennial. And so I have millennial mentors, and
that's great.
Yeah, and some would say that's crazy. No, you need that, and so we're when it comes to decision making these days, it just is you have to take a number of things into consideration. But I think at top of mind, it has to be really discerning and trying your best to understand what the potential unintended consequences could be. Mm-hmm. And how can I do my best to minimize unintended consequences? Yeah. Because they're there, dude, and you don't see them obviously until it happens. It's like, right? Yeah. And sometimes it's too late. Yeah. So and yet, I feel like I've been built for this.
Right.
For such a time as this. I really do.
The Full Exposure Podcast is brought to you by Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, and Dr. Peter Hahn, in appreciation of the creative and artistic visionaries who enrich our lives through through cultural connections.